Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we are going over the massive 14-game NBA slate for tonight on Draftkings. I am looking forward to it. Should be a very fun slate. It's the biggest we've seen all year. So I imagine the chalk will be a little bit less chalky because there's a lot of places you can go tonight. So I am looking forward to this slate. Anyway, before we continue, if you guys could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheet I build every single night for the NBA season, I update it up until lock. Links below in the description below for my Patreon. You get my entire, this is the players portion, so you get the player info, how many days they're on rest, the projected minutes they're going to get tonight, the matchups total, we got the Vegas totals, the pace that they're playing at. So, you know, we want teams on, mostly on, we want to target guys that are in fast-paced matchups a lot of the times. Then you have the advanced statistics on here, you know, their Draftkings points per minute, usage rate, all of that fun stuff. And then at the very end, I do build projections on there, and you can sort them by value or highest projected player in the slate, all that good stuff. So like I said, links in the description below for my Patreon. Also have my defense versus position chart, and you can easily identify who's in good matchups, who is not. And then I have a cheat sheet on the end for I do my 3 favorite players at each position, then my top spend ups, mid range, and values, and also made a Discord chat where you can hop in and just talk basketball all day, send in your lineups, critique it, a bunch of people in there. So like I said, if you're interested, you know where to go. And without further ado, I say we get right into DraftKings and just talk about this slate. Let me just make sure the names pop up when. Okay, so we're good. So, with there being 14 games, there is a million players we can talk about, and to save you guys about 2 hours, I will only talk about some of the guys that are standing out to me as of right now. Obviously, things can change up until 7 p.m., but as of right now, here are some of my favorite targets. Anthony Davis, I am liking him as my top spend-up of the slate. Yes, you can always play Giannis. He's also 12,400, and there's a chance that that game could blow out. They are 14.5-point favorites. James Harden, you can always play him. LeBron versus New Orleans, I definitely think you can play LeBron. I'm not really going to go too in-depth on him, but I definitely think he's a fantastic play versus New Orleans. They are just one of the worst defensive teams in the league. But I actually do like his teammate a little bit better here. He is 1,500 cheaper, and I think this is a fantastic spot for Anthony Davis. So like I said, he comes in at 10,000, and he's my favorite spend up of the slate. And he's also going up against his old team, so there might be some extra juice there, even though he did sit out on them pretty much. But this is going to be a pace up spot for the Lakers. New Orleans is 3rd in pace of play, while the Lakers are 19th, and I always like getting guys in pace up spots. New Orleans is also a bottom 10 defensive team, and they're bottom half in the league versus power forwards and centers. I really don't see who's going to be able to stop Anthony Davis down low. We have the 3rd highest over-under of the slate, only 6-point favorites as well, so I do expect this game not to blow out, and it should be pretty back and forth, high-paced game, not a lot of defense going on for the New Orleans Pelicans. And he's getting about 35 minutes per game, been about 1.44 points per minute, and a near 30% usage rate. So Anthony Davis, I do think he's a fantastic play. He's been playing pretty well recently. I know he had that stretch of 30-point games, but last game versus San Antonio, 53 points, then 47, 62, 61, then that 30, 34, but then 52, 52, 55, 33. I think Anthony Davis is a fantastic play, and if you want to spend up without breaking the bank, I definitely think you can go with AD in cash or GPP. Then just going down the list here, I'm really not in love with any of these 9K to 8K guys. Well, I should say the upper 8K guys, but I do have interest in Paul George here. And that's because this is a back-to-back, so I'm going to assume that there's going to be a very good chance that Kawhi Leonard will sit this game out. I have not seen anything official, but that's just what happens on a back-to-back. Kawhi Leonard does not play. And George has been great this year, 1.5 points per minute and a 33% usage rate. And this is a great matchup versus Memphis as well. They're the 2nd worst defensive unit in the league right now for fantasy points allowed, and they're getting torched at all positions. They're the worst versus guards, pretty bad at down low as well. Paul George is kind of in the middle, but they're still bottom half versus small forwards and power forwards. And this should be a fast-paced game with the Clippers 11th in pace, while Memphis is 6th. So it's still a pace-up spot, so I do like that. This is one of the higher over-unders of the slate. I believe it's top 5, and I like Paul George here. I don't think the Clippers are going to blow these guys out, and if the game does stay close, I can see him reaching about 50 points again. He had a great game last night playing alongside Kawhi Leonard, and he only had 29 minutes where he scored 47 points. So Paul George, I do think he's a pretty good play as long as Kawhi Leonard's out. If Kawhi Leonard's in, I really don't have too much interest, but it is a back-to-back, so I'd have to assume he is not going to play in this game. But we will see. And then scrolling down very briefly. At 8,500, we have Devin Booker, and it's basically that I'd play anyone and everyone versus Washington when given the chance. They're the third worst defensive unit in fantasy points allowed, and they are dead last versus shooting guards, 30th. So this is a perfect spot for Devin Booker. I always like getting Devin Booker in pace-up spots because he's a guy that can just, you can chuck away and just drill threes if it gets hot, and this is definitely a matchup that he could do so, or the mid-range jumper as well. And this is the highest over under the slate, as usual with these Washington games because they are just so bad defensively and play so fast. It's a 241.5 over under. Like I said, highest on the slate. And the guy's hit or miss with Devin Booker. 18, 65, 33, 51, 25, 42, 37, 44, 33, 51. He's pretty much flip-flop. But the cool thing here, if that trend would just continue, he had 65 in his 2 games ago versus Minnesota, then 18 versus Denver. So I guess he's now due for his good game. So if the trends continue, we're looking at probably a 50-point game from Devin Booker. Not really, but I think I'm projected for in the high 40s, which, definitely has upside of more. And we've seen him get 65 points recently. So I do like Devin Booker in this matchup versus Washington. I'll take pretty much anyone versus Washington. So if you can get me someone pretty talented versus them, I will take it all day. Then going down a little bit, Brandon Ingram's going up against his old team, the Lakers. Not a lot of interest there, though. They are a very good defensive team now. Spencer Dinwiddie with Kyrie Irving and Karis LeVert out. So his price is at a point where it's tough. Now I've played him every single game so far with that Kyrie Irving's been out, and he's been fine for me. 41, 36, 42, 43. He had that 50-point game, I think, before that. Yeah, 50 versus Indianapolis. But at 7,800 on a 14-game slate, I don't think he's an absolute necessity. And going up against Boston, they're a pretty good defensive team. So Spencer Dinwiddie, I think this is going to be the game I finally just not play him because I do think there's a lot of better options. And I really don't think he got a lot of upside here at 7,800. So Spencer Dinwiddie, I'm probably going to pass on him today, but just know he's probably going to get you over 40 points as one of the safer plays in the slate. But I just don't think at his price point there's a ton of upside as well. So then we're going to scroll down actually for a little bit. And next guy that piqued my interest. I will say Blake Griffin's pretty cheap going up against Charlotte. Hasn't had the best games recently, but I do think he should be on a short list for you just because of how cheap he is. But Lou Williams, assuming Kawhi Leonard sits, that's going to open up some more usage for guys like Lou Williams. And if he's out, obviously I have to get him a boost. And I love this game environment for Lou Williams. I think it fits him perfectly. Memphis is 29th versus point guards and 27th versus shooting guards. He's got a near 30% usage rate coming off the bench, and he's been over a point per minute. And this is one of those games I think they could use him. I think if he just starts drilling threes, I think he could have a huge game versus Memphis. I do expect this game to be pretty back and forth. Not the biggest spread in the world, one of the higher totals. So I think Lou Williams would make a lot of sense here. Now, does he have a great floor? I wouldn't say he's got a great floor, but he's definitely got a nice ceiling. But 37, his past few games, 37, 28, 41, 34, 27. But 40, 50, 34, 34, 46. I do like Lou Williams at 6,900. Yesterday he was 6,300, which is a bit too cheap. Still below 7K, I'll definitely have interest. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I do think this is a game he could get hot versus Memphis, and I like the spot for him quite a bit. And then Kemba Walker, he comes in at 6,700, the neck concussion thing. But he is expected to play on Wednesday versus Brooklyn. And my first reaction to seeing his price was that he is a bit too cheap. That's true. I ran the numbers, and his average salary this year is $8,526. So we're almost $2,000 off his usual price tag. So obviously, is screaming value to me. And this is a pace-up spot versus Brooklyn. Boston's 20th in pace of play, while Brooklyn is top 5 right now. And individually, this is a great matchup for Kemba Walker. The Brooklyn Nets are 25th versus point guards, and he's averaging over 30 minutes per game, 1.16 points per minute with a 27.6% usage rate. And the best thing about Kemba Walker being in is that we don't have to be tempted to play Wanamaker because that went awful. Wanamaker chalk was not fun a few nights ago. I think that was on Monday. But yeah, Kemba's been good this year. The past few games he was healthy. Weren't too great, but earlier in the season, 46, 28, 50, 47, 45, 38, 30, 28, 27, then 9 because he got hurt in 12 minutes. But yeah, Kemba Walker, 6,700. Definitely think he's a pretty good play and definitely on my radar to make my cash game lineup. Then a couple spots below, we got Whiteside at 6,600. I feel like I've played this guy a lot this year, but he's just been pretty cheap, and he tends to produce now. He was on his way to smashing last game. He had 36 fantasy points, and he's only 6,100, but he only saw 23 minutes, did not get his fourth quarter rotation run because they were killing I almost said the Chicago Cubs, and I almost said the Bears, but the Bulls. And he's going up against OKC tonight, and they are a good defensive team, except down low. They are 21st versus center, so it's right in Whiteside's wheelhouse. Now, he's not a big minute guy every single night. He has played. There was games where he's played big minutes. He had 35 versus San Antonio, but he's averaging about 28, 29 minutes per game. But he's very, very efficient while he's on the court. He's averaging 1.24 points per minute, which is not too bad. Gotta expect he gets close to 30 minutes tonight, and I think he has 40-point upside versus OKC. So don't mind Whiteside. He's going to grade out as a pretty good value on optimizers or as my projections as well. And then Thomas Bryant, he still seems a little bit cheap here going up against Phoenix. He scored 31 fantasy points in 22 minutes last night. He got in foul trouble early. I think he had 2 fouls at the 8-minute mark in the first quarter. I think he had 9 fantasy points in that first 4 minutes. He was looking like he was going to have a monster game. And then he didn't get his last-minute rotation in the fourth quarter because they were getting blown out. But I do like this game a lot for fantasy. I already went over that. It's going to be a fast-paced game, highest total on the slate. And Phoenix is also a good matchup for him. Phoenix is also 24th versus centers, and he's been getting about 29 minutes per game and is at 1.12 points per minute. So if he just does his average numbers, I do think he's a pretty good play. Should get you over 30 fantasy points. So I do like Thomas Bryant coming in at 6K. I think he's a pretty good option. Does grade out well as a nice value-ish play. Mid-range value play. Draymond Green, I do have interest in him. So he comes in at 5,700. And if he does play, we don't know if he's going to play. He's dealing with that heel soreness, but he's only 5,700. So with him only being the only important piece left with, Klay Thompson's out, Steph Curry's out, D'Angelo Russell's out. So that really would just leave Draymond Green. I know Kai Bowman had a pretty good game recently, but if he's in, I could see him flirting with a triple-double in this matchup because he should be able to rack up the rebounds versus one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. And he's been running point recently. He's going to get the assist. Not a big point guy, but if he can get 10 points, if he can do what he did last game versus Memphis, but just get a couple more points, I would take that whole day at his price tag. So Draymond Green, you got to see if he's going to play or not. But anyway, the unfortunate thing is he plays at 10:30, so we might not know until after lock. So it might be a riskier play, but if he's rolled in beforehand, I think Draymond Green would be a fine mid-range play at 5,700. But one of my favorite plays on the slate, it's actually going to be Ricky Rubio here. He comes in at 5,500. I know he's questionable what he is expected to play, considered probable. They just haven't updated the tag on DraftKings. Like I said, one of my favorite plays on the slate. Before getting hurt, he was in that upper 6K to 7K range, and he was playing great. I mean, if you just look at his game log, he had, besides that game versus Atlanta, 43, 51, 36, 47, 31, 30, 35, 36. These are all pretty solid games here. And now he's back, and I price him the lowest he's been all year. That's just how DraftKings pricing's been this year. It makes no sense. And he's going up against Washington as well, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. It's going to be a fast-paced, high-scoring game. They're 21st versus point guards this year. And while on the court, he's at a 20% usage rate, and it's been well over a point per minute at 1.11. I do expect him to be pretty popular tonight, and it's for good reason. So I do like Ricky Rubio as one of my favorite plays on the slate at his price tag. And scrolling down a little bit, we have Enes Kanter at 5K. So his price did come up. It was at 3,700. Unfortunately, they moved him up to 5K, but he's going to draw another start here with Tights being out. And he saw 25 minutes last game, and he got 28 fantasy points, which was great at his price tag. This is a good matchup versus Brooklyn as well. They do push the pace. They're 23rd versus opposing centers. I believe they're 5th in pace of play. And he's been at 1.1 points per minute this year, and I got him for about 25 minutes tonight, so I do think a projection of around 28 fantasy points is pretty fair, and he's got an upside of more as well. So Kanter, definitely on a short list for me. Now his price is coming a little bit of a concern there at 5K, but I do think he'll still be fine. Can get you 30 fantasy points, I think, pretty easily tonight. But maybe a better point, point per dollar play might be Willie Cauley-Stein here, and actually forget his price. I know he's in that 4K range, but yeah, so he comes in at 4,700. So he's slightly cheaper than Kanter, and I just love this spot for him. He's been getting minutes in the upper 20s, 29 minutes last game, then 28, 25, 26, 25, 25, 23. So basically, you're going to get you about 25 minutes per game with Stein with upside of more. And this is a great matchup down low. Chicago is 30th and 29th versus power forwards and centers, and are awful at rebounding. It's one of the worst teams at grabbing rebounds. Now, the past few games have been pretty rough for Willie Cauley-Stein here. He had 17, 15, and 19, but before that, he was playing pretty well. 30, 23, 26, 24, 30. I think we see something more of the same of those last the games, not the most recent games, but beforehand. I think he's probably going to be in that 25 to 30 point range tonight. And at 4,700, I will take that. As of right now, there's not a lot of obvious value plays, way down low, so it might be hard to make a stars and scrubs lineup tonight, so that's kind of why I said my favorite spend up as of right now will be Anthony Davis, because if I play someone like Giannis or LeBron, I don't know if there's enough value for me to make a lineup I like too much tonight. So obviously, if more value opens up and we get a free 3K guy, you can go willy-nilly and spend all the way up if you want. But as of right now, that's just my approach to tonight. But I will leave you guys with that. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. Check out the spreadsheet if you're interested in my Discord chat. And I'll see you guys in the next video.